love in our schools. That really, after 19 years of teaching, I came to a breaking point.
Mm,
And after my beautiful experience teaching diverse cultures and children in China, because of COVID, I came back to the States in
mm,
early COVID days, and so I continued teaching in Florida, which was my nervous system. It felt heightened all the time.
mhm,
And I did everything I could. When I noticed with my students, the more kindness, the more love that I gave them unconditionally, the more the more receptive to learning they were. And
mm,
it got to the point where their test levels, which it hurts that that's how we measure learning, is through standardized tests. But I would truly focus on just immersing my students in love
mhm.
and through everything I did, and no matter how I taught, and their test scores went through the roof compared to other years and other places in the district and such. But I truly felt that giving them that kind of love and kindness is what they needed to feel safe, to feel belonging. I had I most of my behavior issues really disappeared within the classroom. Um, and I was going through some personal struggles, just leaving China and trying to figure out new life in the US after some culture shock, reverse culture shock.
Yeah.
And I had a moment that I had this epiphany that really changed my life. And that was, I truly felt that if teachers, if I, even just me, if I could be as kind to myself as I am my students, everything could change.
Yeah.
It just gave me this voice to speak about the need for kindness in our schools. And through a miracle, I truly feel Jeff reached out to me about a year and a half ago. And
Mhm.
do you want to take over for Jeff?
Sure. Um, Veronica, I am a unicorn in education. Um, I got an idea years ago from watching children respond to puppets
Mhm,
from behind a puppet theater,
mhm,
watching the impact of play and this medium
mhm,
on kids. And I have followed that question uh, for decades.
mhm,
I have, as a scientist, had some recognition along the way from large organizations in Europe.
mhm,
I'm basically an independent who has uncovered certain things and certain models about play
mhm,
that can bring play quite effectively and quite simply into learning spaces.
mhm,
Um, what I've done is focus on play that becomes part of communication. And I've developed a method and a platform for allowing that to happen,
mhm,
to create the kind of receptivity that Melissa has been talking about. When you bring love, when
mhm,
you bring unconditional kind of acceptance
mhm.
into the learning space with children,
Yeah.
it's transformative. And so I'm a bit subversive because in building
A good thing.
this communication, uh, uh, I believe that when it's scaled out and more people discover what
Mhm,
can happen simply by bringing
mhm,
play through communication, I call it a play language,
mhm,
um, the the impact on that learning space is just phenomenal. And I've been able to document this. And create a portal in the form of a course. But there are so many things that are plaguing the learning culture. And there are so many people who are hurting and are frustrated, teacher shortages, violence, everything. I believe that if a generation of children were brought up in the presence and proximity of play, we would have very different children emerging. And I've been able to create this kind of play so that it's suitable all the way up into college. I mean, MIT has a play laboratory. There are appropriate ways to bring play into the learning space at all levels. And I believe that I've come up with a model that makes that possible. But the challenge is to bring people together and to talk to them the way that we're having this conversation. Not everybody is willing to venture outside the comfort zone. And so in bringing this to educators, I've had to take into account that there's going to be resistance and fear. And I can sit back and get on my high horse and say, you are teachers and yet you don't play? What's the matter? But it's the human condition. And the sad thing is that in the US of A, we got a lot of things wrong getting started. And so I'm focused on bringing enough play as a form of energy into learning spaces so that it takes on a life of its own. And that can happen in the micro and it can happen in the macro. And so that's about it in a nutshell. There's a lot more to share. And I'd really be interested in knowing why you came here to find out what you're doing and who you're teaching and what you're thinking.
Okay, well, I'm so glad you shared that. That deeply resonates with me, and I really appreciate that. And so, with me personally, I am not a certified teacher, but I've spent my entire life teaching. I've been a preschool teacher several times, kindergarten, parapro, substitute teacher. I taught at my church. Even when I was a child, I was always, who's going to be the teacher? I got voted. I was always the teacher and the preacher.
Same thing.
One of my biggest approaches in teaching is art and play, because I do believe strongly in what you said, that those are forms of communication. And so that's part of my background. But another part, if I may be very candid, is that I am a domestic violence survivor. And I have, because of that, spent a lot of time studying ways in which we can, I'm very interested in human development and child development and how we can capture moments in a child's life. You know, there's developmental milestones, right? And so how we can kind of like dissect it and take it back to what can we do to foster emotional intelligence and healthy self-esteem, and ways that children can show up in the world whole and healthy, and how that has like a domino effect, right? As we grow up, the relationships that we bring to our relationships who we are, right? That is our hurts and our strengths, right? And so part of what I study is adverse childhood experiences, and how I'm pretty sure you're very well aware that people, children who suffer traumas, later on it's been documented that those children tend to have be predisposed to disease, all types of sickness, accidents, mental health problems, and the like. And so I recently went to a workshop for on child abuse, right? Prevention of child abuse. And so
Yes.
one of the things we talked about there is how we can engage children and their families in play and positive experiences as a means of combating these adverse childhood experiences, right? As a means of building healthy families. And I myself am a very strong believer that we never stop playing. And
Mhm.
I tell my children, hey, if you'll be willing to just stop the busyness, of life and just play, get into nature, do some things you loved as a child, that every time we do those things are really healing. And so I'm 50, about to be 56 years old in like a couple of days, right? May 23rd. But I brought some visual aids because I still blow bubbles. I still do sidewalk chalk and I still have pinwheels, right? So I'm very big on play because I believe that a large part of healing a person's spirit, which I believe is a foundation for healing all other things in life, your mental, your emotional, your physical health, that play is very foundational to healing. So that's what brings me here.
Wow.
We are so with you.
Yes. And it's actually really incredible. Um, our last conversation was with a play therapist, a teacher I used to work with. She's currently in Thailand running her own school, and she's
Oh, wow.
becoming a play therapist. And she was talking about how when she's going to school to become a play therapist, but the thought that continues to echo through her mind is, if we shouldn't have to learn how to do this because this should be what school is.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very passionate about advocating for children to break that generational trauma, uh, for domestic violence, alcoholism. There's so many things that are affecting our children, and the
Mm-hmm.
cycle does not stop until people speak up to break the cycle, like you. So
Yeah.
thank you.
I
Thank you
was
for sharing. Thank
Yeah,
you for sharing that, Veronica.
Oh,
yeah.
you're welcome. And thank you for listening and let me share that. Yeah.
How, I'm just curious to ask you, how has play been received within your school and your colleagues? How do you feel as an advocate for play as a means of healing our children? Have have you had receptivity to that, or any pushback at all?
Um, I'm currently not working in that field, not working right now, but it's been a mixed bag. Um, as we were talking, I remember substituting in a school in which the teacher was going to leave for a half day, and she said to the students, um, you guys need to chill out and behave, or else I'm going to take away recess. And I was like, mm, okay, well, you say that, but I'm going to be the teacher and we're not going to miss recess. Not that I'm trying to be, but because like, how do you not understand that these children are probably taxed and stressed because they do not get enough play, and the behavior that you're looking to get from them, you're more likely to get if you give them the opportunity to run around and to play and to jump rope and do whatever they do, right? And so I really am not a big proponent of taking away an opportunity to play as a means of punishment to get something out of a child. So I've seen that in schools where art and play and music were not very valued, and actually there's attempts to have defund those things, right? So, but then I've been in preschools where I've taken the lead and, instituted things like I worked for this one preschool where it was a church and they had like a whole annex. And when bad weather would come around, they would just not take the kids out. And I'm like, you have this whole annex. So one day I decided I'm going to take my class over to the annex. And I got a speaker and a couple of toys. And before you know it, other teachers started to bring their kids over to the annex to where it became a thing, right? And so in my last preschool class, I was kind of known as the art and play and music and singing teacher. And so my boss, who was not the most, wasn't the loveliest person, but I noted that when she would give class tours, school tours, she would bring people to my classroom because there was always this commentary of there's this lovely energy of kindness and calmness and joy, right? Because there was a lot of play and a lot of art that was happening that I used those means of teaching my kids. So I think sometimes just like when you go to places where there's a party and nobody wants to get out on the floor and dance, if somebody will take, and I'm usually that person that will be willing to to get out there and to dance first. And if you take this first step to dance, oftentimes people will dance right along with you. And if they don't, dance and just be happy anyway.
Yeah.
It's just like,
That's being kind to yourself.
mhm,
When you took
yeah,
students to the annex, you were treating yourself with kindness. You didn't care what other people thought. You knew what was best for yourself and your students. That's
mm,
all.
yeah,
Wow, wonderful.
thank you.
Um, oh, it's so nice to meet you in person.
Oh, it's nice to meet you too. It's really is.
I'm not sure, Jeff, where we want to go further. Um, Potentially we're thinking for this movement. So I know we've we've only had, this first meeting, but I was thinking of just being regular every Thursday at 8 p.m., just being there and inviting teachers to talk about play and have these conversations.
Mhm.
And I think it's so important. Just this conversation we had has lifted my spirits. And I know that if I was going to the classroom tomorrow, which I'm not because I'm focused on this play project and bringing play into schools,
Yeah,
I know that it would help me to have an easier day with my children, with my students.
yeah.
So um, I'm thinking that could be an idea for the movement. Any other thoughts on
Well, I wanted to say something, and this is not necessarily an idea in keeping with, what to do in the movement. I wanted to say this. Another reason why I'm really big on play is because of this, um, that, when people suffer a lot of traumas, um, people can develop things like PTSD, depression, anxiety,
Yes.
and I have been a sufferer. But I will say this, on some of my darkest times, I have had the ability or had the nudge just to just play, right? Go get some bubbles, right? Um, and it's just very therapeutic and very healing. And you mentioned, about your spirits being uplifted. And that's just something that I know is personally that simple little things like jumping rope,
yeah,
running around, playing chase or kicking a ball, doing bubbles, you know, flying a kite. My older son and we went to the park and I just said, hey, let's just write some really sweet messages with this chart. Let's draw some rainbows and some hearts and stars and stuff and write some cute messages. And we did. And we got a chance to leave that behind for other people. And you just imagine someone else may be having a down day. And maybe I'm pretty sure this is kind of a human thing. You can remember a time where you were not having such a great day and someone smiled at you, or you saw a little flower growing out of the concrete, or a heart or something that you just like, just in that second, you felt like there's hope. All is right with the world. And so I'm just very big on things like that, you know,
I
put it into practice myself and then giving it to somebody else that maybe they may be uplifted, you know? I
exactly.
think we need that so desperately.
And
Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely.
it's so, so important. It feels like it's less and less in our schools sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, just from the 10 years I lived overseas teaching in Florida for 6 years and then 10 years away. And then there was a huge difference in the amount of anxiety and stress and the lack of play. And
Mhm.
learning through play it's such a radical idea. I know when I first heard learning through play, I was like, what? Like, this is school. We don't play, and I'm a very thinker. But that's just not how I was raised. It's not, I was raised to be a good girl and sit in a desk and,
Yeah.
mask all of my emotions.
Mm.
And the 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 beauty that I've discovered with the play media, with the play language that Jeff's innovation over 40 years of teaching workshops with everyone, it's taking that mask that you wear all the time and putting it on your hand. And his form of play, if you don't mind, Jeff, I'll explain, but it's using paper talking puppets to
Mm.
be that third party or that third perspective
Mhm.
in the learning situation or in the environment. And it's such a different concept because it allows for this vulnerability in
Mm.
a conversation with children and for the teacher. It's just a really incredible idea that I'm trying to spread, because I know that with teachers, we feel that automatic resistance to play. Like, how, how,
Yeah.
like, okay, they get 20 minutes of recess every day. That should be enough. But with the paper puppets that Jeff has innovated, it's actually taking learning to such a deeper level.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to check out a video, if I could email it to you, that kind of explains what
Oh, yeah.
it is.
Of course.
Uh,
I have to do one thing. Okay.
yeah.
I'm really sorry, but I have to take an eye drop.
Oh,
So
no problem.
no, no, no.
Step away if you need to.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna step away and I'm gonna like take myself off camera for just a second, but keep talking and I'll put my email address in the
Okay.
chat.
Thank you.
Okay.
Terrific.
Keep talking because I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. um, and it just reminded me to talk about puppet tools when Veronica, when you were talking about those artifacts. If you see a flower growing up from the sidewalk, that's an artifact where, or leaving those kind rocks around the park, or
Yeah.
all of those things, because it's actually something that you can hold and see, and it becomes tangible.
Mm-hmm.
Where, and whereas, we can say kindness and play all day long, but until you hold it and see it, it it's hard to measure.
Yeah.
When you can see it and hold it, then you can really feel it. And so I'm really excited for you to watch the video that I'll send you.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're actually trying to gather a group of 30 educators. This is our goal throughout the summer, is to gather a group of 30 educators who are passionate in about play and kindness
Mhm.
um, to to meet regularly and to check out Jeff's course and just to experiment and get comfortable with play language, because I really think it could be something, it will be something that will uh, innovate education
Right.
because it's hurting right now.
Well, I love that idea, that you're, play, for teaching as an instrument for teaching the children, but just the beauty of it being that the teachers are going to benefit too, because they're going to uh play as well. They're going to take part in it. I'm assuming. And I think that a large part of our problem as a culture is that we think that the older we get, it means that we should stop playing because, put away foolish things, put away the things of youth because now you're maturing. But being mature does not mean that you can't have fun and you can't play.
That's
Exactly.
I think that
Exactly.
I think that breeds sourness, and I think it breeds. I think that we, as a society, we have a crisis of civility. There's one thing about being kind, but we're not. A lot of people aren't even civil to one another,
Mhm.
and I
You're
think that
absolutely right.
that comes from a hardness of the heart. And when you play, it's very hard. It's difficult to be hard-hearted when you're engaged in play.
Yeah, 100%. It's truly bringing out our inner child as educators,
Our best side.
our
Mhm.
best side, and that's who we want to be with, having those masks off and being vulnerable. That's when we can really teach and impact lives.
Yes, I agree with that. And children, you know, energy is really important. And
Mhm.
children feel they feel energy and they feel a person's spirit, right? And so um I've been very blessed in that everywhere I go, children and dogs are always wanting to stop and say hello and don't want to leave. And a lot of people will feel like, oh, that's interrupting my time. It's taxing my time. I see it as a kiss from God every time that happens to me, right? And so
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that is. Mhm.
I thank you. I just think that one of my degrees is in English literature, and I keep thinking about Wordsworth, who said, "The world is too much with us," right? Like
Yes.
we are really hard pressed on every side. We read about the Palestinian and Israeli
Mhm.
situation, which is very heartbreaking. Then we're bombarded by Donald Trump and all his the election was stolen and Stormy Daniels and this and that. And it's just kind of like,
Yeah, it just
and you're
keeps
just like,
coming at you.
Yeah.
wait, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. And it's like, there's a global thing, there's the country thing, there's our city thing, there's our own little microcosm of the world, you know, our families, and then there's us as an individual and all these stressors. How does a person decompress from all of this?
Right.
Like,
How do you find that space? How do you keep that space?
mhm.
And how do you
Right.
how do you
So
sustain?
yeah, so for me, um, I'm a person of very deep faith, so I pray a lot and I read my Bible a lot. I have a lot of faith, right? Um, so seeking God is a big part of that. And I think that we've been taught so much that everything is following the rules and being straight and narrow, straight-laced, especially when you come to religion, you know.
Yeah.
But God created us to be happy,
Mhm.
right? To have joy, right? And one of the things I love is where Jesus says in John 10:10, you know, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that you may have life. And some versions say joy abundantly.
Mhm.
So that to me sounds like he wants us to have some fun in life,
Definitely.
right? And fun does not mean that we're doing anything that's harmful to ourselves or to anyone else. And so I just think this whole idea is so revolutionary because it's something that's so simple and it's free and it addresses so many ills
Yes.
that we see, we face, you know, and um, the question becomes why, if it's free and if it's something that elevates the spirit, it frees the mind, heals the body, because, you know, science teaches us also too that people who play stay youthful and it's good for your health. So if all these benefits come from this, why don't people want to do it? It's a construct of the mind that people are resistant to things because they have this constructs. I'm an adult now, or we're supposed to be about business. School is for learning. You can play at home.
Yeah.
I'm an
Yeah.
adult now. I need to work, 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 work. It's like,
And yeah.
I like to say that play is staring us in the face.
Mhm.
And
mm-hmm,
it's in the face, it's in the face of every child.
mm-hmm.
Play is, if I dare say, play is directly bringing God into the classrooms.
I can agree with that.
And that's something the both all the sides, who can argue with that?
Well, you know, somebody will, but logical people with sense are not going to argue with that. But
I'm pretty sure that whatever you call, whatever your our nervous system is regulated to to embody kindness and love and play. And that's what
yeah.
all of the mental health teachings are saying. That's what science is saying. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is exactly directly what's missing in our classrooms, hence the devastating statistics that recently came out about the suicide rate increase with teen boys and girls in the past 15 years has gone
Mm,
165%.
mm,
That's directly related to smartphones and the lack of social interaction. So if they're
mhm.
getting it in school and they're not getting it at home,
Right.
where are they getting it? And I know there's always an argument that teachers say we're not their parents, my job isn't a social worker, or
Oh,
I'm
yes, it is.
not a counselor. But isn't our job to create global citizens and educate global citizens? Whereas other international schools are doing project-based learning and play-centered learning. And
Finland.
Finland, all of
Norway.
even the
Yeah.
international schools in Asia and
Yeah.
Australia, they're very competitive to our top Ivy League schools.
Mm,
I really worry. I love my country. I do. And I really worry for its future when we are taking away our children's right to be human.
yeah.
So if I can say this, if we don't find a way to light the fire of vision and passion in a way that somehow eludes the typical response. We don't want to be standing at the front of the schoolhouse doors, banging away and demanding. So in addition to having a solution to bring play into people's lives, and there are lots of ways to do that, but the idea of bringing play into children's lives through adults who learn to speak the language of play, that's a pretty unique platform. But that by itself isn't going to do it. We've got to ask ourselves, how is this revolution going to appear? How is it going to cause people to be disarmed? Because so many words that we use are already equipped with triggers. You can't say anything these days without somebody, deciding that they want to argue with it.
Yeah.
That's part of the polarization. So one of the things that I'm after, that Melissa and I have envisioned, is to allow streaming to bring forth images of educators who are doing things with kids that defy the expected. It's counterintuitive. So you have a teacher at the front of the room. She may be standing at the front of the room, but instead of a piece of chalk, she may have a puppet of a bumblebee or a stomach or an invisible particle or a thing like a cell. And using this device, they're talking about, through an interview, of what this thing is and where it comes from and what function it has in the world. And it's getting kids to think and articulate. It's getting some kids who know how to find something on the internet and bring it to the class in the form of something that needs to be interviewed playfully. But the point I'm making is that the vision of teachers behaving and doing things with kids playfully is in itself a very compelling vision that it's difficult to argue with. And it commands your attention, and in a sense, it allows you to dwell in that vision temporarily. And as an adult, you would say, what the heck was that?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on there? And I think that what's going on there is the key to getting people like you to come to the table to talk about this, because, well, you're unusual, Veronica.
Mm-hmm.
Your antennas are up. But there are educators whose antennas have been crushed. And there are people out there whose motivation is desperation. And so by eliciting new kinds of content, we're trying to get teachers to experience play language, but we also want to get them comfortable enough and interested enough to say, I'm going to ask a child or a parent to get some video of me doing this at this point, because it's important. Getting that information, that imaging, out into the mainstream offers tremendous potential in opening people's minds and opening the doors to wider receptivity, possibly wider interest in play and what play means. And I think that part of the streaming is to have conversations like this that may happen on the one-on-one. But now, if we can share this with 2 or 3 other teachers who are on the edge of desperation or quitting or just simply looking for solutions, this is where play coupled with media can be scaled out so that people can see it and a different vision. This is what we need. We need a different vision of a solution that we can somehow direct and manage as educators, as visionaries, as catalysts. We need to do this because it's not going to help us to love the idea and the presence of play in our lives if we can't somehow turn that into the ability to share it. And that's why we're sitting here having this conversation. I think it's finding like-minded people. It's always easy, but sometimes that creates a silo. We stay in the silo. I think there are a lot of people out there like us. And if we focus in on this problem like an electron microscope, we can really look at what it is we're trying to do with play, understand play as a force of nature that has to be directed and managed. And that's how I arrived at creating a play language. I got to play language because I couldn't convince educators to pick up puppets and use them in the classroom. And some of those that did tripped over it because it was so technical. So I had to figure out a way to make the medium of puppetry, the art of puppetry, into something that not only could you get your hands on it, but when you used it, whatever you were doing playfully went straight into the playground of the mind with kids. And that pathway it's a two-way pathway because adults need to discover what it means to play in the classroom. And the only thing that's going to give them permission is to see how the response of the children impacts the way they see children and the way they teach. So this is a big idea, and I'm convinced that, you know, with gathering the right people and understanding what the potential is for play to become part of the way we convey ideas in our language, I think this is something that can really reverse the polarity and the modeling that we have.
I agree.
Oh, thank you.
Just listening to what you were saying, I was just thinking, you know, you talked about streaming teachers at play with children in classrooms. And what I just kept thinking about is like getting people to understand the importance of play for everyone. Like if an adult can understand the impact of play upon themselves to like I showed you that I like to blow bubbles. I have a video that my son made of me, unbeknownst to me. He was in a window, second floor window, videotaping me blowing bubbles. And he's like, just because, and he like put a laughing face, but he just made a video of me and put it on, I don't know, Snapchat and whatever else of me blowing bubbles.
Mhm.
But I was just happy in that moment,
Yeah.
right? Just just to be able to show people or let people see themselves those little glimpses of joy that they're experiencing. And when they can personally see the joy that it's bringing them and that value that for what it brings to them, then I think that people tend to will understand what joy and value it would bring. If I'm an adult at my age and I feel this much joy in this little simple moment of play, how much more would this child who is society's approved age to play,
Mhm.
right? Um, so I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense,
Oh,
but
so
I'm
much sense.
Oh,
But
just
you are.
trying to say, like, if, we could put videos up even in
yes,
the group of us at play,
yes,
skipping rope,
it's the
you
action of
know,
kindness.
running around. Like I don't have grandchildren, but there's these two little girls who their parents are friends of mine, but the parents are going through a divorce and a really hard time. But what's happened is they've started to come over every Monday, and I've made it my business to make them feel special and to just kind of glory in play and just make it magical for them because I just know, not to beat a dead horse, but I just know the healing power of this. And I see these kids flourishing um, in these for that one day of the week that they see me.
Mhm.
I have a hula hoop. It's my hula hoop, but I have a rebounder, a mini trampoline. It's mine, but I share this with them, and they're just so excited. I mean, I have playground balls and basketball. These are my things that I use, but they come and they share this with me, and just the joy that they get and the mutual joy that I share with them. Um, it's a little thing, but it's not a little thing.
It's not, because it's the
It's
action,
huge.
it's the verb of showing kindness to ourselves. So if we could each just, I know people don't like to post things or reels, but even if I offered, like, just send me a 10-second video clip of you playing and be brave. Let me add music and whatever.
Yeah.
That
And then the onlookers, it's like reaping multiple dividends. The
that
person who's doing the play gets the
Ripples out.
joy. Then the person who is first singing it, maybe, if you're going to add music, you get the joy of seeing that, and then you get the joy of adding whatever little music, whatever you want. And then when it's put out there, everyone that sees it, people sometimes say, oh, I've had a hard day at work or whatever, or things aren't going well. And they see some 56-year-old woman with gray hair running around, you know, whatever, blowing bubbles, skipping rope, doing hopscotch. That's something I made for them, hopscotch. Even the hardest of people might even crack a smile.
that's beautiful.
And then every person that sees that, you know what I'm saying? You doing whatever you do, what you doing whatever you do, um, just a domino effect.
Yeah. That's what the play project could focus on, is us. Like, our children know how to play, but what is play to us and what does that mean to us?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful. I'm gonna get on that if you don't mind.
go for it.
Our first video.
Yeah. I will do that. Yes, I will do that. I'll have to have my son send it to you because my phone is saying some unkind words to me because I have 141,000 pictures on my phone
Oh,
and 748 videos. So
wow. I thought I was
that's and that's after me taking some off. So yes, I will definitely give you something.
I love it. Thank you. This has been so healing for me. Like every day talking about this and meeting people, like, and especially you, and
Yeah,
hearing your
we,
story. It's
we
been,
really needed this, Veronica.
yeah, we did.
Oh, thank you. I needed it too. It was good for me too. I'm looking forward to seeing, learning about your research and your play language, and just continuing to follow your page and Melissa, and to see everybody's videos of them playing.
Yes,
Because you're gonna make one too, right?
of course.
Okay.
Please.
You
Yes.
too, right, Jeff? You're gonna make
Yes.
one too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I love it. Yep, it's a movement.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta move.
Yeah, yes, that's right. That's right. That's
Well,
right.
Veronica, Melissa wanted you to see a video that kind of introduces the work. And
Mhm.
I would just like to give you a link into my world, the play language world.
Okay,
And,
great.
it's a course. You can get
Hmm.
through it. I think if you're a quick study, you don't have to
Yeah.
spend a lot of time going too deep with it.
Hmm.
Um, I think it will give you a new toy
Hmm.
and something to, talk about the next time,
Yeah.
because uh, time is short. Uh, Ordinarily, I would say, well, just let it, put it on the back burner. But I'd like to invite you into the coursework to get your sense of it,
Okay.
and then hopefully there'll be some more people next week.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think we should plan to meet here to for a little joy.
Yeah, that would be great. I put my email
I
address
saw
in the
that.
chat box. And so I can add Melissa, two of my children, I'm sure will be willing to
Great.
join your group. One in particular I know um uh will be willing to join us for this. Um he is right now getting his master's, about to graduate next week with his master's in social policy.
Wow.
Ah,
And so he's very interested in this type of work as well, you know, of liberating things like play and joy and kindness and those things. He's very centered around that stuff as well, those things as well. So maybe next time he's about to wrap up his coursework, but maybe next Thursday I can bring somebody with me.
Great.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going anywhere
Nope. We are committed.
except into the future.
That's a good way to think about it. That's a good way to think about it.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you
thank
so
you for
much
your
for
time.
coming up.
We really, really appreciate it.
No, thank you for inviting me. And I really enjoyed hearing you guys' stories and what you shared. Uh I really do think that what you're sharing is very revolutionary, and that for so long uh there's just so much oppression and so much desperation,
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
And we see that, and it doesn't matter what somebody's socioeconomic status is, because the rich suffer the same things, right? And so I just feel like there is an energetic or spiritual shift in things, to where the time is right for
Yep.
I
these
hear
type
you.
of things, where you know what I mean? It's like some kind of curtain or veil is being lifted, to
Yes,
where
Definitely.
um uh people are starting to wake up,
Mhm.
right?
yes,
And
100%.
people are getting tired of polarization. People are getting tired of this day in, day out obsession with celebrities and foolishness and isms and schisms and factions and division, and it's maddening.
It is.
And so I think people are ripe for the picking, if you will.
And you are at this forefront with us.
Mm.
Yeah, we need you.
Oh, that's
Have a
very,
very eloquent way of getting your
Yes,
across.
oh, you're very kind. Thank you. You're very kind. You know, I feel like people don't get, uh, there's work that we all have done, self-work to be able to see these things, you know what I'm saying? Um, and it doesn't, I'll speak for myself. It doesn't mean that I'm better than anyone else. It just means that maybe um we're walking down the same road and I'm a little bit further down the road, but I'm not too far down that I don't want to go back and grab somebody's hand and say, hey, you know, we're in this together, right? If you need healing, you know, I was talking to my son about this, you know, we are one, we're interconnected, you know, no matter what our race is, our gender, our political affiliation, our country, we are all one. And if you hurt, I hurt, right? And when you get healed, a little piece of me is healed, right? And so I think that the more that we can spread this message of love and kindness and play as being part of this type of thing to heal, to lead to this, I just think that it really is it is life changing and world changing, right?
yes, it is. It is.
Um, like you talked about suicide rates being up. You know, you even think about things like people having severe mental health problems, personality disorders. I study so much of this stuff and just the understanding that the stuff that we're talking about can really turn the tide. If you get to kids when they're certain ages, and science tells us we used to think adolescence stopped at 18. Science is even saying 21 and 25 because we know that the brain is not fully formed until people are 25, right? Which
This,
means a personality. And even though science tells us that, science also tells us there's the idea of neurogenesis and plasticity. What is the role of play in neurogenesis and plasticity,
This
right?
could really open up a whole new field of science. Like it's already there,
Yeah.
but I think I think there's so many healing careers out there for future scientists that they're not even learning about right now. And unless we focus on our problems and solving our global problems and global issues, how are we going to create a generation of scientists and educators who are going to help solve these these global problems?
Well, you're doing it right. You're
It's
doing it right now. You're
it
doing it right now, though, because, you know, global is big,
is
but you're
one
one
person.
person, and
Yeah.
then you invited me,
Yep.
and then everyone that you know, and everyone that you know, everyone that I know, when you get the message out, you got your page. Um, this is how, you know, how do you build a wall? You put one brick
Mhm.
upon another brick. Somebody brings some mortar, somebody else brings another brick, and before you know it, you have this fortress. And I think that's what you're doing here is that you're building up a foundation, right?
And
we
like
are.
like Margaret Mead says, what is on the on the um on the Facebook cover page? Let me sorry. The only thing
Small group, the small group of people.
yes, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
here we are.
Yeah. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of changing the world with you.
Well, we've been wandering around the playground for a long time. We just bumped into each other.
That's a beautiful thought. That's a beautiful thought.
And we'll bump into each other
Yes,
again.
for sure. Would you mind if we took maybe perhaps clips of this conversation
Oh no, I
here
don't mind.
on YouTube or whatnot? Okay.
Oh no, you can anything that I've shared here is fair game for you to put out. It's fine. Yeah, of course. You
Right.
know, to be honest with you, it's sort of like this right here. We're talking about making this a movement and getting it out there. I think that part of why movements are effective is the people who are leading them being vulnerable.
Mhm.
Because when people can see that you are just a person like them, and maybe you give voice to something that people may be feeling and they might be too afraid to say anything about, people like, oh, okay, I take note of that.
Yeah.
Build trust with people by being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's scary, but
Yeah.
But it's
And
healing.
puppets are good at that stuff.
Yes.
yes, they are very disarming. And I meant to tell you that I have used them in my classroom. And the funny thing about it is that when parents were around, they will talk to the puppets as well.
Yeah.
Talk to the with the go to
Yeah.
other teachers and parents will talk to them as if you see something magical happen, as if they become a child again when they're talking to this puppet that they know you have your hand in and they know that you're putting on the voice, but
They're not looking at you anymore.
exactly. You've seen it before, right? It's very interesting phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very lovely phenomenon. Yeah.
Well, I will email you with that video link, and this is where we can find each other. Maybe someday we'll meet in person.
That would be lovely. That would be very lovely. And you have to always pardon me if I talk too much because
No,
I'm a talker. I'm sorry.
no, I love it. Love it. And we're really not too far away, so maybe we can meet sometime. I'm manifesting that.
Yeah, you said you're in Kissimmee?
I'm in Titusville, which is east of Orlando.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Yeah. My son used to live in Orlando. He just moved from there. But yeah, you're not too far from me.
Yeah,
Nope. Not too
great.
far. Well, again, thank you for having me and
So,
thank you for what you shared. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for what you shared. We'll look forward to the next time and
Okay.
enjoy one another's company.
Yes, thank you so much. And so you'll send a link for me for
Yes, I
next
will.
time?
I'll send that. I'll send that to you. You'll have it tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
God bless you both and thanks
So,
again.
too.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
And
Bye.
make sure to play. Go out and play.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.